Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the BytesBurn podcast. And we're your hosts, Idris Lawal and Stacy Onuora. Today, we have some interesting things from the world of tech, as usual. In tech, things always move, and in a week, the changes and movements happen. So that's why we give you these updates every week. And for those who haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe for more of these updates. Moving on, for this week, we got some interesting news. One of them is that there's a planned layoff by Jumia, the African Amazon. We There's a report from TechPoint Africa that Jumia is planning to um, do some layoff due to, you guessed it, AI, and they have this, vision to use AI to automate some things and all of that. The usual stuff that companies nowadays, attribute layoffs to. And if you look at it generally, Jumia has been reducing their sort of footprint over the past couple of years. At some point they went into survival mode because they were bleeding a lot of cash. They've done a number of layoffs in the past, and for me, I think this is just another way to reduce costs and um, move more towards profitability because they are sort of doing some good revenue numbers. And this layoff, while it has been attributed to AI, we know that a lot of companies these days are using this AI washing, as the OpenAI Sam Altman called it, to categorize their layoffs. But of course, as usual, there are more concerns beneath the hood that they are basically not sharing with the rest of us. Stacy, another AI layoff. What do you make of this?
I think this is something we see more of because companies are trying to make as much profit as they can. And one way to do that is to, cut um, human resources costs. And like you said, we've been seeing a reduction in the workforce of Jumia over the years, and even some of their businesses as well. They had been, I know when at the point where there was Jumia food, now we no longer have that. And I know there were also, but to be honest, I feel like Jumia's case might be a legit one because I know that there have been reports that they have been trying to do some restructuring just to get their money up, they're bleeding money and things like that. And like you mentioned, they're trying to be the Amazon of Africa, right? And it's not easy to expand into different countries within Africa. But I still feel like with AI coming in, it's something that can, drive their profitability if they, explore more creative ideas as to how to make money now that you have like AI assisting you in a lot of um, operations, you know, um, mental, like basically research and things like that. So I also think that it's like they didn't need to lay off, but again, I'm not in their company, right? But with AI, they could have, transformed their business and gotten profitability if that's what they're looking for without having to, downsize any more than they have already.
Yeah, for me to believe that it is not AI washing, what I would like them to do is to come out and state exactly which areas of the business as AI automated to the point where they have to lay off, that many people,
Mm-hmm.
because they just come out and say, "Oh, AI is improving our efficiency," blah blah blah. But in what area exactly, is AI replacing? Because this is like a complete replacement. Now you are saying there's this AI agents that are doing XYZ for you that enables you to completely lay off people, meaning those people's jobs have been taken directly by AI. So
Mm-hmm.
Many of these companies won't do that, of course, but so it's for me, it's just a way to brand the whole thing because that's what everybody's doing these days. Not one single company has come out, since there have been all this layoff to say exactly why they are laying off, other than it is just about AI. It is just about AI, and it's it's too rampant at this point. So I just don't believe any of them that come out to say it is AI. And if you look at the numbers, like I mentioned earlier, their revenue, they have, recorded some impressive revenue growth, in the past couple of years. So to me, it's just like a simple mathematics. The revenue is coming in, but they probably have identified that they are still spending, like they still have like high expenditure. So
Mm,
basically, reduce your expenditure so the profits make begin to make more sense. It's not good for the people that have been laid off because now to recycle yourself into the job market and start to look for other employment, it's not easy. Moving on, we also have, well, yet another bit of sad news about Chimoney. There's a report about Chimoney, shutting down their business, and
mm,
they had to wind down due to lack of funding. And right now there is a lot of startups in Nigeria are actually facing this funding issue, where a lot of investors, I think most of them are focused on AI. Anything that is not
mm.
AI is not really getting anybody's attention, because a lot of people believe that's the future, that's where everything is headed to. So
Yeah.
a lot of existing, SaaS-based or regular fintech companies are sort of having this challenge with funding. And from what the CEO mentioned, they had issues with distribution, and they couldn't raise the amount of funding that they expected, to be able to grow.
Yeah. So also from what I read, right, I saw that they do cross-border payments, right? And with cross-border payments, it would mean that they'd have to do with licensing costs, operations across several countries, which I believe, would have taken a lot of their money. Based on the report as well, they said they had raised I think disclosed around 280 $1,000, and like total sum would be between maybe around $1 million, which I think is quite the sum, right? But it was still not enough, right? They had exhausted their runway and things like that. And the CEO had also mentioned that it feels like they built a good product, but they weren't able to market it or distribute it as much as they could have, right? Because I mean, I feel like if they had more customer base and people using their platform, they probably would have had more money to keep on running while they get funding. And I think that's also something that will probably be disturbing most founders that are publicly funded or just funded generally. It's like, okay, I have to I have to what's the word, properly optimize the funds I have. And then when the funds is running out, you're already thinking, how can I raise more funds in order to keep operations going? Because there's also staff you need to take care of, people that work for you. Imagine the company closing up, you have that to deal with as well. And there's also this pressure on founders, to increase profitability. So in as much as you might be expanding and things like that, it's like, are you actually making profits from this expansion you're doing? It's not just saying, oh, I'm expanding into 5 markets, 10 markets. It's like, are these are these markets profitable? All right. So I think that's just one of like those are like the struggles of being a founder. Now you're even in the fintech space where people believe, oh, it's like relatively easy because you're dealing with money and things like that. But there's also the costs attached to it with licensing, being compliant, operations, and things like that. So it's like you said, it's sad that they've come so far. And I think they've been running for, I think they raised funds in 2023, it's 2026. Um, there was a saying I actually heard that if you can pass the 5 year mark, or is it 10 years? I'm not sure. If you can pass a certain mark in, being a startup, that means you're doing something really well because a lot of startups don't make it beyond a certain point.
Okay, so moving on, we got another report of a study by EY that was retracted from from public after researchers found out that the reports contained AI hallucinations, which is going from on misattributed citations to citations that don't even exist and all of that, and even completely made up data. And this was when this was discovered, EY pulled the report, and this raised some questions and some interesting thoughts, because this is not the first time we've seen things around papers and reports. Last week we were talking about the policy that was being drafted, the AI policy that was being drafted by, in South Africa, that contained similar AI hallucinations.
I hope this doesn't become a trend, to be honest, where you know people confidently publish articles or reports that are actually not factual. Like there's no fact. The citations are non-existent. Because I think this would cause a greater problem in the sense because most of these articles or reports are recycled back into AI. So if AI thinks it's correct information, it uses that to generate other reports. Now that means the entire, let's say, my bad example, that means most of the internet might not even now contain accurate information because one poisoned or many poisoned articles that resulted as a result of AI hallucination now affect other articles that are now based on that. So we now have that data poisoning all around. And I mean, we already had, there was a case of, misinformation on the internet now. And this also shows a greater problem, which is human oversight, right? We are basically cognitive outsourcing, and there is no sort of review that is happening. And it's always like it's super important, particularly where we are right now with AI, where teams, human beings should be the final editors of AI assisted work, particularly when you know that you're a like actually anybody should not be everybody should be publishing right information to always cross check the information that you are generating with AI. Nobody's saying don't use AI to assist with the work you're doing, but always verify, always cross check. Because now we're seeing cases of AI hallucinations and people need to be aware that these things happen and you can't just fully trust the AI to give you correct and accurate data.
Yeah, and yeah, as you mentioned, I think more importantly is the fact that data right now is authentic because these are things created by people, pre-AI. Post AI, you now begin to wonder, so where will the authentic data come from to train future systems? Because once all of the data on the internet becomes replaced by AI generated ones, even on videos, audio, text, and all of that, once it all becomes AI generated stuff, then you basically be feeding the same garbage to future systems, which would eventually make them worse, and that I think that's quite important. Finally, today we will be covering another layoff case that happened with an engineer at Atlassian, a software engineer that got laid off after about 8 years of working with them. And this was an interesting scenario to cover because he didn't just, after the layoff, he basically went on YouTube to talk about his experience at Atlassian. And he talked about this experience and even went deeper into some of the things he had, worked on while at Atlassian, broke down the architectures he built and all of that. And it's been generating a lot of feedback from the tech community about how he's able to break down all of these architectures that he built and the different engines that he worked on at Atlassian. This is, quite interesting to me because you could see that he's obviously a highly skilled engineer and was, quite, you can probably, argue that he's probably one of the top talent at Atlassian, and
Mm,
he just got laid off after 8 years. That's even someone with a lot of company experience, different from his software engineering experience. He has a lot of company experience.
mm,
Yeah, and this, just paints a very um, a bleak scenario, of where the tech ecosystem is moving towards, of
mm,
this kind of layoff. Last week talked about Cloudflare as well, laying off a number of people and highly experienced people at that. So it is
mm.
a worrisome scenario, but um, there's probably little that we can do about it at the moment. I believe, at some point, some common sense will come in and they will begin to understand that, these people that they're laying off are actually the gems that, keep the company running. And
Um,
no matter the amount of automation, human creativity, will still, human creativity still better than, than all of that. But we'll
mm.
see where the future leads. Um,
Actually saw the video, and I think the video has like over 500K views with a lot of comments,
yeah,
people, sharing their views on, because he spoke a lot about, like you mentioned, the infrastructure, the management systems, configurations, and also sharing like his professional insight generally in software engineering and maintenance, right? And you could tell that this is, again, like you said, someone who is very experienced, someone who knows, the like he knows his onions, right? And in as much as there could be some you know some comments around the fact that, oh, why did you do that? It's exposing Atlassian to maybe bad actors and things like that. If we look at the knowledge side of things, like there were a lot of people, oh, asking questions about the things he explained. So it's like a learning, it's like a learning opportunity for people, because the video was actually quite long with a lot of details, right? So, I mean, this shows that the people that they're laying off actually know what they're doing without AI agents. Now, a lot of people, use AI, but, imagine having built this stuff, done all this work, like I said, 8 years. It's a long time, right? And that was before AI really became a thing. So he did all this, designed the architecture even before that time. So I'm wondering why they think that, oh, now that the AI agent has come, let's lay off this set of people. It doesn't really add up to me.
yeah, and for me, I think in the end, it's all about cost cutting. I see like a lot of these companies, all they all want to invest in AI some way, some fashion. Atlassian is also a big company. If you look at it, they are a huge company. And they look at all the other huge companies around the world, all diving head on into AI without parachutes. They are all going full into AI. And for them as well, they'll look at uh, if they also probably want to be relevant in a few years, they also need to dive into this same AI, rave and all. and
Yeah.
they will also, and for them, it's also not the case that they have unlimited money. So they also want to balance it out and say, if they're going to go full in on AI, then they probably need to cut costs in some way to ensure that they're not, over burning cash and all that. So I see that maybe that's where their focus is headed, and that's why they could, maybe afford to do some of these things. But we've seen that in some cases, some of these companies end up having degraded service, and they sort of scramble and maybe look for people to call back and all of that to help them out. But yeah, it's not just one company, it's a lot of companies at this point doing the exact same thing, following the exact same AI playbook and investing big in AI. So it's an interesting future, but we'll see where it all leads. I still believe that human creativity, trumps whatever AI produces, because in the end, the AI systems need to work for us, right? Not they need to work for us, not based on what the AI providers want, right? So people's wants and needs are always going to expand and increase. What we want would always continue to increase, and you need people actually to listen to other people to provide what they want and build it out for them. So I think software will still be here a long time, and whether or not it has a bit more AI or a bit less, you still need people to build it. And I think that's it's where we'll call it a wrap for this week. We hope you enjoyed our talk, and do give us a like and subscribe to our channel for more. And we'll catch you in the next one.